KCAA.
Are you ready for a new experience? To see life from another point of view? New hope, new expression, new joy. This is your radio hour. Welcome to Viewpoint with Father John.
And welcome, friends. You're tuned to NBC Radio, KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or you can listen from anywhere around the world at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John. I am your host, Father John Reed. Just a reminder, you can follow us on both Instagram and Facebook. Just look for Viewpoint with Father John. And if you miss an episode, go to YouTube. You can hear all the episodes you like. Just in the search bar, put Viewpoint with Father John, KCAA, and you get all the last 4 years' worth of shows that have been uploaded. And if you want to be in touch with me on Twitter, my address is at Father John Reed. Father is spelled out formally, and Reed is R-E-I-D, the proper Irish. So look for us on all those platforms. Always enjoy hearing from you. All of God's children are endowed with extraordinary purpose and ability. I'm on a quest to help as many as possible in fully realizing their divinely inspired potential. Disposing a false narrative and embracing genuineness inspires clarity of purpose. My role is to help overcome self-imposed limitations in realizing one's spiritual potential. And folks, again, I want to tell you about the best pharmacy this side of the Mississippi, which is Claremont Pharmacy, which is quite fortunately located in the city of Claremont. That was really smart that they decided to do that.
Just for you.
Just for me. I
right.
feel special. And that's on the corner of Indian Hill Boulevard and Arrow Highway. It's owned by Dr. Nikki Ho. If you want the best medical treatment for getting your prescriptions, that's the place to go. They take care of everything I need for my diabetes. And if you still need to get either a vaccination or a booster, they have them there. Just ask one of the staff there and they'll get you all set up. So that's a good deal. And also, if you want the best DJ service in the entire state of California, you want LakesideDJServices.com. That is run by our own beloved Frank, who's running all the engineering on this show tonight, and he's been doing this show for over 2 years now, so you should know Frank pretty well. But in addition to the music, he also has the photo booth, which is a lot of fun. The photo booth. And, you know, he's getting booked up all over the place, so be sure to get your booking in quick so that you can have him work your event. So, again, that's LakesideDJServices.com. And finally, I want to remind you of my friend Glenn Kirshner with his channel, Justice Matters, on YouTube. And he says it like it is. He shoots from the hip, as you know from me sharing with you. He has been a federal prosecutor for about 25 years, and he was 6.5 years in the Army as an officer and as a prosecutor JAG lawyer. So he knows what he speaks of. And so if you want straight information, you want Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner. He's a good friend of mine. And folks, you'll be really thrilled to know that a good friend of the show and my official fill-in host, Dr. John Smith, is with us tonight. For those of you who have not heard of him before, Dr. Smith is a psychotherapist. He's a professor, and he's author of the book, The Authentic Man, A Guide to Happiness and Purpose, a book I've read many times. As you can see, I even have a copy of the book here on the table with us. And you can see that book is well worn because I go through it constantly. And I have suggested to a number of my counseling clients, both males and females, that they get this book because there's a lot in there. And I recommend you get a copy too if you don't already have one. It is available on Amazon. So that's The Authentic Man, A Guide to Happiness and Purpose.
Thank you.
Dr. Smith, welcome to the show. Good to have you again.
Oh, man, I'm glad to be back. I sure am. So
yeah,
it's been a minute, but not that long, I guess.
Yeah.
I can't remember when I think I filled in for you when you were off.
In January.
Yeah.
That's right. Last Thursday of January.
Yep.
So
okay.
thank you.
Well, thanks for inviting me back. I guess I did okay, huh?
You did wonderful. You always do a great job. You always do a great job. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit tonight about how people get radicalized. And the reason I'm bringing it up, and I shared with you a little bit, but to share with our listeners, it seems like we're going more and more towards the idea of people being radicalized instead of being reasonable. And I'm wondering what are some of the character trends that you've noticed for people who wind up getting radicalized? Do they have anything in common that you see?
That's a great question. There was a time when I thought people who were not necessarily, who were very gullible would be people who would hear things and then they take them at face value without necessarily verifying.
Right.
But in the last couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years, I've noticed that it doesn't have anything to do, I don't think, with gullibility, because people that I wouldn't have suspected it being gullible, who have a lot of life experience, who I would think, maybe all of a sudden they seem to be taking positions that without having any necessarily data or facts to back it up, but
Right.
they're right, and you can't convince them that they're not right. If in fact they're not right, if the facts do not
Sure.
support their opinion, but they still have their opinion, and by gosh, and then they keep searching out other people who have the same opinion. You get enough of those folks together, and now you've got, I guess I'm going to use the word a cult.
Sure.
A cult is a group of people who have the same belief. Usually there's a charismatic leader who is giving them what things to think about and things to do, and then they just sort of surrender their will to that person, and there you go, or to that particular belief system.
Sure. And when you have someone who's always right at the top of the thing, and for you to question anything they say is to be disloyal and to receive great emotional and social punishment for. I have a little bit of a theory, and I'd like to bounce it off you, see what you think about this. I think with the isolation people were experiencing with COVID,
Yeah.
and being cut off from their normal sources of engagement meant that their main engagement with people was Facebook and other social media, where a lot of this stuff really got pumped through. And so when you're feeling alone already and isolated, when you see people who think a little bit like you do, you say, oh, these are people are part of my ilk, I'll go hang out with them.
I think you hit on something, because when you were saying that, I was thinking, okay, how do they brainwash, or how do they break down prisoners, or how do they brainwash people? First, they isolate them.
Right.
Then they indoctrinate them.
Right.
And the indoctrination process is to basically, while they're isolated, continuously bombard them with whatever the philosophy is, whatever
The new program.
the new program is. It's really like installing a new program and eliminating the old belief system. And you do that long enough psychologically, and they also include things like sleep deprivation and other. But you do that long enough, and then the person begins to identify with that. I mean, you may have heard the term Stockholm syndrome.
That's what was going through my mind.
Yeah, and I was thinking, of course, a lot of people may not remember who Patty Hearst
Right.
was,
Charles
but
Manson.
Patty Hearst was brainwashed by the and
Manson.
kidnapped. Well, no, it was Symbionese
that's right.
Liberation Army.
You are
And
correct.
they had her carrying a gun. They were holding up a bank or something. I don't know, but anyway, they allegedly, that's what happened to her, is that they kidnapped her and then they brainwashed her, and she became one of their members.
Yeah, one of their cronies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that happen before. I had a case a few years back. Wow, over 10 years ago. Where does time go when we start getting older? And she had become involved with someone who was a student of Charles Manson.
Oh, wow.
And she lost all personal identification in this and took on the identification of what she was told her new identification was.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I wound up working with it was family member had her kidnapped out of that relationship, and then I did the debriefing for that, even though I
Okay.
hadn't done that in years. Because it was a personal friend, I went ahead and did it. And the deprogramming of that was hardcore. I mean, we're talking a 2-year process.
Right.
Because you don't get brainwashed overnight, as you know. It's
Right. So I got a question, because you asked me what folks might have in common, and I said, well, I thought it was gullibility, but I don't think that's it anymore. What came to my mind was the lack of critical thinking.
right.
It goes in, but it goes in unchallenged, and so I'm wondering what is happening to the critical thinking capacity that allows people to take in information without any challenge. It just goes in as fact, and it's not, that's how most kids under the age of 10 think, because their brain hasn't developed the ability to think critically yet. So you tell them something or they believe something, it goes in unchallenged as fact.
Right.
Right? It's truth. And then at some point, around age 9, 10, somewhere around there, they develop this ability to think critically, so now they start challenging things. And, it's like, there's Santa Claus on the corner, there's Santa Claus at the mall, and there's this guy that kind of looks like Dad, but he's dressed like Santa Claus. They're all Santa Claus.
Right.
And then later they develop this critical thinking capacity, and then they go, wait a minute, Santa Claus can't be on the corner and at the mall, and that's not Santa, that's Dad. They've been lying to me. So, but they, before that, they didn't have the capacity or ability to do that. But it seems now like grown adults are approaching things with that same inability to challenge or think critically. It's, what you choose to believe is up to you, but if you are believing something without any challenge or any of investigation or any research, then you're just being fed stuff, and there's nothing, you're not analyzing it critically.
And if it matches belief systems you'd already had, as you know, when we hear something, it goes into our subconscious. If it goes along with what we already believe, it stays. If it doesn't, it gets kicked out like we never even heard it.
Right.
And there's been a lot of anger in this country for a long time because people see jobs going overseas. So what's the first element? The fear. Why do people allow themselves to be brainwashed? They're frightened of their captor. Well, instead of looking at the fact that what's really caused the loss of work, one was technology, that these jobs just didn't require manual labor anymore because it's done robotically. But you have to have someone to blame for that. Instead of saying the technology, we say, well, it's the people come over the border. I don't see a whole lot of computer techs come over the border, And so for each of these things, when the myth that has been out there for a long time, and I heard someone here at the station say one time that they were really upset because they had somebody who was from another country who got all the benefits. And he said, I wish I was an illegal so I can have all these benefits. And what they don't know is it's the law that if you are undocumented, you're not allowed to receive those benefits. It's just the law.
Right.
But because it's been planted, now you have someone come along who hits these things that are trigger points for you, and you say, see, I was right the whole time.
Right.
And I think that might be another way that people get radicalized.
That I'm sure, and it's basically, in science we call that experimenter bias.
Right.
Right. You believe it to be true, therefore, and you want it to be true, therefore you select information that proves what you want it to prove, not necessarily what's accurate or fact, but because it supports your theory or your belief, you accept that information, you sort of overlook or ignore the information that might prove it otherwise, and so then you go, hey, see, it's proof, it's true.
Yeah, and I think one way that people can get a little grasp of what's going on is if you're listening to the information and you're starting to get a stomachache because there's a chance it may do away with something you already believe, then that says, okay, your belief is not put in truth. Your belief is a belief that you don't want to have challenged. And so you're going to run to where who's ever saying what it is you already believe and say the other is fake news. And
right. Well, it's interesting these days. I try to avoid as much news as possible, but yet there's so much going on, I can't quite stay away from it. But it's like each point of view, I'll call it each side, but there's so many sides these days. But each side has its belief system, and when there is something that challenges it, it's fake news. So,
Right.
But this side says the other side has fake news, and the other side says the other side has fake news. And perhaps it's all fake, but I can't imagine that every single bit of information coming out is untrue.
Right, and that's where facts and feelings become two separate worlds. But speaking about news, looks like Frank's trying to give me the news through the window that it's time to go to our first commercial break.
Already? My goodness.
My goodness, yes. So you're listening to Viewpoint with Father John on NBC Radio, KCAA, and my guest this evening is Dr. John Smith.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org, www.4pfp as in personalfuneralplanning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran-owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
You may think every weather app is the same until you see WeatherBug over-deliver on so many layers. With more free map layers than any other weather app, WeatherBug warns you the moment lightning strikes near you, prepares you for your commute with road conditions, routes, and even cameras. With everything from pollen and air quality to severe storm risks, radar, and satellite coverage, WeatherBug prepares you for the unpredictable. Download the WeatherBug app, trusted by over 10 million users, today for free.
And welcome back, friends. You're tuned to NBC Radio, KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or you can listen from anywhere around the world on KCAA Radio. This is Viewpoint with Father John. I am your host, Father John Reed. And my guest this evening is our beloved Dr. John Smith, who is a psychotherapist, a professor, and also the author of the book, The Authentic Man, A Guide to Happiness and Purpose, and one of my dearest friends as well. He's like a brother to me. And as we went to commercial break, I brought up something that we like to kick around a little bit more, which is finding out the difference between facts and feelings, because they're different worlds, because some people mistake how they feel as being a fact. And you want to talk about that?
Well, you hit it on the head. I know a lot of people like this. In fact, I have seen a lot of folks like this in my therapy practice, because they feel, and there's nothing wrong with feeling, but feelings are usually generated from either a situation or by thoughts. Okay? So I know a lot of people that feel something, therefore to them, they feel it, therefore it's true.
Right.
So it because they feel strongly about something, there's a lot of emotion behind it. It's not being challenged. It's not being analyzed as whether it's true. It's, I feel it, therefore it is. That's the truth. Well, as we probably all have dealt with, that's not the case quite often. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not.
Well, when I was going through police academy, I can remember someone made a mistake of saying, when asked about this crime, so I felt that, they said, I don't care how you feel. I want to know what happened.
Yes.
What are the facts? And that's a courtroom procedure, too. They're not interested in what you felt happened. They want to know what legitimately happened. And you can get called out on that.
The opposite is true, too. I know a lot of people that go, well, I feel that.
Yeah.
No, that's what you thought. That's not what you felt. But
Correct.
So they confuse thoughts and feelings.
Talk about that for a minute, because I think that's a very important point.
Well,
And that wasn't a play on words.
well, so, I hear people all the time that they'll go like, well, I feel that this and this and this and this. Well, okay, you feel it, but what you're really saying is, I think this and this and this. That's your opinion.
Correct.
Okay, that's your opinion, and then your opinion is your opinion. The question then is your opinion based in any fact.
Right.
Okay, I can have an opinion, the sky is gray, the sky is green, the sky is purple. That's my opinion.
Right.
What's the fact that supports my opinion? I can have an opinion, which I can't probably say it on the air, but that saying about opinions are like, what's, because everybody's got one.
Orifices.
Yes.
Orifices.
Yes.
And some stink worse than others.
That's right. Okay. Well, I think that was clear on what I was trying to say. Yeah.
I just wanted you to know I had your back on that. one.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
there
I
you
didn't have
go.
to. Frank didn't have to push the button.
Yeah, that's good. He was hovering.
I think he was. Yeah.
He's hovering.
Yeah.
He says that was so bad, even his fingers stuttered when he tried to hit the button. But seriously, that is a huge issue. And when along those lines, when someone doesn't distinctly understand the difference between an opinion and a fact, or a talking point and a fact, it makes it really hard to have an intelligent conversation about what's really going on. And what we see in some things happening right now, particularly in politics, is certain individuals taking advantage of that lack of understanding.
Right.
And coaching people to think this is what's real when it's really what somebody fears. It's based on somebody's fear,
Right.
but it has nothing to do with reality.
Well, if you think in history, sometimes in good ways, but most of the time in bad ways, when you want to motivate a crowd of people to do something, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, you play to their fears.
That's right.
Or you play to the belief that is held, it's the public opinion of something, or it's the perception of something, and you play to it, and if you play to it long enough, then it becomes reality.
Well,
and that's what I see happening today is, there are a lot of people playing to various things, and they say it enough, and they say it enough, and they say it enough. All of a sudden now it's fact, it's reality. And it's, but it's not, you see some of these things that are fact checked, and the opinion is nowhere near what the facts say, but you have a large crowd of people, a group of people who continue to repeat it and replicate it, and so therefore it becomes true.
Operant conditioning.
Exactly.
And you're correct about that. One of the things that a con artist will do is tell you the same lie over and over again. And after a while, because you've heard it so many times, even though you don't realize you heard it from the same source every time, because you heard it so many times, it just lodges in your mind as it must be true because I keep hearing that over and over again.
Right.
And Facebook has really enhanced this as well, because you're seeing it in print now. Now it's going through the eyes and into the system. And there's been so many cons on Facebook. I mean, we saw people getting ripped off more than ever in our lives because people are falling for these cons.
Right.
So it is by repetition that we slowly but surely start taking some ideas
You mean that prince in Nigeria isn't real?
Well, yeah, he's. I know he has to be real because he told me he's sending me that money because he can't. His bank account is frozen up. He just needs me to do this
Send
check
him-
for his employees
Right,
here.
right,
Yeah, I know he's going to pay me back.
Okay.
Yes, we're having fun with you tonight with listeners on that one. So if you are talking to the Prince of Nigeria, he's fake. He's fake. He's only a prince of your wallet if you give in to him.
I can see the email coming in from a real prince from Nigeria saying, what are you talking about? I'm real.
That's right. That's right. And I'm just going to be real good and not step onto that dance floor.
No, no, please don't. Please
Tempting
don't.
as it is.
I want to hear you back next week, so you better not step on that one.
Yeah, that would be a landmine. That's a hand grenade I don't want to throw into my future. Thank you.
Right. Yes.
Well, again, when we hear what we secretly believe being said out loud, it's not uncommon to identify, back to the Stockholm Syndrome, it's a matter of survival. And when you think you're the odd duck out, but you hear these other odd ducks, you say, oh no, I just wasn't with the right tribe. The other ducks are odd.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen more of that over the last 5 years than we've ever seen. And with everyone being locked up with COVID, we needed someone to be angry with. But yet, it's like when we're angry with our parents, we can't really acknowledge it because psychologically it's like killing our parents off.
Mm-hmm.
I think so many people politically were relating that way. If they dare say that the person that they held as a hero is wrong and is handling this incorrectly, then they're being disloyal, which they're killing off that parent figure, so to speak.
Right.
What do you feel about that? Think about that.
Yeah. Well, I think there's some truth to that, at least psychologically or symbolically speaking, not literally killing them off, but symbolically attacking them or killing them off. But that I think that what you pointed out is that loyalty thing. That's huge, and some, what's that saying? Loyal to a fault.
Right.
Some people have, for whatever reason, have pledged their undying loyalty to a cause, a belief, a person, right? And without question, they're even, literally in some cases willing to die or kill to be loyal to that person, belief, or cause.
Well, yeah, and we just saw it again with one of the people out of Russia blaming George Soros for some of this that's going on over there. I kid you not.
Well, isn't he like the person who's responsible for everything that goes wrong now?
Yes.
Pretty much. I mean,
Yes.
he's like the maniacal. What was in Sherlock Holmes the character that was always Sherlock Holmes's nemesis, Moriarty.
Moriarty.
Yeah, Soros is the Moriarty of the world right now. He's the diabolical person behind everything.
Yeah.
I suppose he could be, but
Well, the idea is when we can give people a target and say, this is why you feel this way. This is why you're so afraid. This is why you have such bad luck. Well, now we have something we can focus on.
Right.
And we don't have to be responsible for our own life. Because sometimes we feel so ashamed that we haven't done more with our life that it's nice to have something outside of us say, see, it wasn't my fault the whole time. It's this dirty dog who's caused these problems in my life.
Right. If only that, then I would be
I'd be
better.
wonderful.
Yeah, exactly.
And now when we say it, we hear the farce of it. But when it's happening, we're not speaking outside of ourselves. We're having internal dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hear someone on television, and look, this is how these people have made great strides. Look at televangelists, how they take advantage of people. And there's a series out right now going after one of the mega churches, and I just started watching it. So I'm having trouble with the name of it. I'm sorry, I'll have to look it up for you. And it's showing the play on emotions
Mm-hmm.
and how they get people to put in more money. And where, some of these churches require a minimum of $250,000 a Sunday to stay open to cover their costs.
Wow.
Not how I was raised in ministry, but the point is there are certain people who have learned how to play on fears, and there's a lot of people afraid of God, a lot of people afraid going to hell, a lot of people afraid of things they don't understand, and they say, well, come as you are.
Yeah.
And while it says your home on a lot of the banners, you realize there's a lot of rules to being part of that home. But part of those rules is you got to convince other people that this is where it's at as well.
Right.
And so while you're trying to sell them, you're buying your own goods, and you didn't realize, well, you were buying rotten eggs in the first place.
Right.
You're just
Right.
repackaging them and selling those rotten eggs to somebody else in the hopes that maybe they're not really rotten.
Well, right, and that's how you also gain favor with whoever is the leader,
Right.
or I will be accepted, and the more people I can bring in, if you will, or the more money I can contribute, or whatever it is, the more of something that I can do, the more favor I will gain with the leadership. That means I'll be more liked, I'll be more part of it, I'll be more wanted.
One of the things which was an unofficial study, so I don't want to put this out there as science. This is just an observation. Please know the difference. It had just left me.
There it goes, quick.
Quick, I should have grabbed
Well,
it faster.
while you're looking for that one, I was going to say, one of our basic human needs is to belong.
That is where I was going. Thank you.
Exactly. How's that one? I caught it.
Nice catch.
I caught it. There you go. So yeah, belongingness is and we've been so isolated, and we've been so I'm not even sure now. I'm losing the word. Divisive or divided,
Right.
Polarity. People are all over the place. Nobody's. So we everybody is looking to belong to something or somebody. So I think that's a big piece of it too.
Yeah. I remember what it was that I was going to talk about, if I can hang on to it again for a second.
I got it.
It was right along those lines. Oh, yeah, a lot of people who have gotten caught up with some of the, let's say the last political thing, were intelligent people, but were anti-government, anti-science, living everything naturally. And you'd be surprised that these were a lot of holdout hippies, and no offense to hippies. I come from that generation. I have a great love for that generation. And because 45 was against everything, it fell right within that belief structure of, see, I was right, you can't trust science. I was right, you can't trust what they're putting in food. You can't trust the government. And Trump wasn't the first one to pull this. This has been going on for a long time, but he sure brought it to a whole new level.
Right.
Because I was talking to another member of the clergy who know a lot of people that it shocked them that they changed this, because these are the people who ate nothing but natural foods, all these things. And he says, and I saw that because it went with what their fears were, that they already didn't trust these things, it was like validation.
Right.
So
Yeah. I think that's confirmation bias. Is that what that is?
confirmation bias, thank you.
Yeah. I think that's what that's called. Yeah.
Well, we already had divide and conquer, I think, which is what you're referring to.
Right.
And so you had that. And one of the things that the evangelicals have that help radicalize people is they blatantly say, well, we're right and they're wrong. So if you're with us, you're right. And if you're with us, you're good.
Yeah. So there's an us-them split.
Us, them.
And I see that happening all over the place.
And you have that with ISIS. You have that with political parties. You have that with all kinds of things, but particularly with religious groups and militant groups. Look at the militias,
Right.
who are certain that the government is illegitimate,
Right.
and so they get other people to believe that. And by golly, the laws don't apply to us that apply to them. And a lot of times they get in trouble, they get pulled over, and they'll tell the police officer, I don't recognize your authority.
Right.
I'm a sovereign person.
Right.
And that's when they get a real dose of reality that, well, you can run around saying that. The facts are
Right.
you're going to jail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'll see if we can get you a personalized
Or
cell.
it leads to violence.
Leads to violence.
Yeah.
Leads to violence. Which there's been a lot of that. I hate to say this. I'm sure I'm going to get some letters, but look it up. You'll find out. Fact check me. You'll find out this is true. That the white evangelical has been involved with racial superiority from the get-go.
Right.
If you notice, who do the Ku Klux Klan belonged to, white evangelicals, and all these different violent groups.
Right.
And so it's been a real problem. And I'm not saying that because I'm Eastern Orthodox. I'm saying that because this is what the statistics bear out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's in the numbers, baby.
Yeah.
Speaking of numbers, Frank's
Uh-oh.
looking at me like we're at your numbers up as we go to commercial. My guest this evening is Dr. John Smith, author, professor, and all-around good guy.
Huh, thanks.
The loss of a loved one is one of the most challenging experiences in a person's life. It's hard to know where to turn to make your loved one's final arrangements. Jesse Ruiz at Personal Funeral Planning in Ontario will treat you and your loved one with the respect you deserve. Jesse served in the Marine Corps in Desert Storm and understands what it takes to provide loyal, personalized, and empathetic service to those who need it most. The families of Michael Jackson, Brittany Murphy, Ed McMahon, and many others have trusted Jesse to provide them with the highest level of service and support. To work with Jesse, call 909-762-4027, 909-762-4027, or visit their website, www.4pfp.org. www.4pfp as in personalfuneralplanning.org. Jesse Ruiz and Personal Funeral Planning, veteran-owned and operated, helping you plan a personal, lasting tribute for your loved one. www.4pfp.org.
You may think every weather app is the same until you see WeatherBug over-deliver on so many layers. With more free map layers than any other weather app, WeatherBug warns you the moment lightning strikes near you, prepares you for your commute with road conditions, routes, and even cameras. With everything from pollen and air quality to severe storm risks, radar, and satellite coverage, WeatherBug prepares you for the unpredictable. Download the WeatherBug app, trusted by over 10 million users, today for free.
And welcome back, friends. You're tuned to NBC Radio, KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or you can listen from anywhere around the world at kcaaradio.com. This is Viewpoint with Father John. I am your host, Father John Reed, and my guest this evening is the one and only Dr. John Smith, who is a psychotherapist, a professor, and author of the book, The Authentic Man, A Guide to Happiness and Purpose. And folks, if you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. It's available on Amazon and any online bookstore, I believe. But I know for sure Amazon because I got my copy there. And if you're looking on YouTube, you can see that the copy in front of us is well worn. It's because this is my personal copy of it. And I've gone through it. I highlight things. I draw lines other place. I dog-eared the pages. I've used this for talks I've given, because it's that good. So,
Well, thank you.
so definitely get that book. It's the Authentic Man, A Guide to Happiness and Purpose. During the commercial break, I was bouncing some things off you, and it's been an observation that I think we're dealing with a problem with things going into a closed circuit idea. In other words, sometimes we think we're open-minded when we're really closed-minded. And when we're closed-minded, it seems easier for us to be radicalized. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we were. I kind of brought that up. That that was another observation. Is that I'm not saying that people have always been open-minded. I mean, obviously there are closed-minded people no matter what.
Right.
It just seems like a contagion of an epidemic of closed-mindedness. People form an opinion or they form a belief and they're not open to anybody else's way of thinking or thinking of it differently, or
Right.
usually when you're having a dialogue with someone, if you're talking about something, of course you have your opinion. They may have a different opinion. If we're having a good, healthy dialogue, I'm willing to listen and entertain your opinion and maybe even say, oh, I can see how that could be, or gosh, I never thought of it that way.
Right.
But that's not happening anymore. In a lot of cases, it's like, I'm right, you're wrong,
And there's nothing to
black
talk
and white.
about.
It's turned into sort of a black and white thinking, all or nothing.
Yeah, binary. And if you disagree with me, it's because you're stupid.
Yeah, now I'm going to character assassinate you because you don't agree with me.
My uncle used to say I wouldn't argue if I was wrong. He really said that quite a bit, and believed it.
Yeah.
So oftentimes we may fool ourselves into thinking that we're open-minded when we're really not. Would that be a true statement?
Yeah. I know a lot of people who think they are, but then when you get into a conversation with them, you realize that they're very rigid and they're very one-minded people, and there's no way to get them to budge on their belief.
Yeah, and I find that when you ask for sources or anything, not to be a smart aleck, I was having a conversation with someone this week, and I mentioned that to you, and when I asked, what are your sources, I wasn't attacking them. I wanted to know the sources so I could look it up and see what they're seeing in case there's something I missed. And whenever I make a claim, I provide the sources. I was taught that early in college, that when you speak and you reference something, give the source.
I'm an educator, and that's what we teach, as far as, if you can have whatever opinion you want.
Right.
But cite a source. Where does that opinion come from, and what supports that opinion? And that's fine. And that, of course, discourse and disagreement is what higher education is built upon, right? I mean,
Right.
It's not, there are facts in some cases, but a lot of it is opinion and discourse, and, that disagreement helps improve the science or the world because we see things through different lenses, and
Right.
And yet it kind of dawned on me, and I'm not going to blame the public schools, except it probably is the public schools. At least you'll get letters, not me.
Yeah. Thanks
well,
for that. Even
are
if
they? I did. This is a question because I don't know. Are they not teaching critical thinking? Because I know.
Yeah,
I teach at the college level, but I see a lot of people coming into college who lack the ability to think critically. So I'm wondering if that's something that has sort of gone by the
phased
wayside. Yeah.
I believe it is, just like it's now to learn how to do cursory is optional.
Oh, I know.
And I think that's a big mistake. But I do like the fact that I can write you a note in cursory, and kids today wouldn't know what I had written. I don't have to learn a new code.
Yeah, can you imagine college students getting a PhD in cursive one day? Where
Yeah.
it's like hieroglyphics, and I'm a major in cursive.
Yeah, but it's almost like getting a degree in communication.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to get letters on that one, too.
You are.
Hey, even negative attention is attention.
That's right.
That's right. But, one of the things I find with radicalization is the fact that you don't trust fact checkers at all. In this conversation, someone made a statement about CNN and NBC, and I spoke for NBC. I don't work for CNN, but because I'm on an NBC network, I know that as being licensed under news, we have to have a accuracy level of no less than 97%. We have to have professional fact checkers that check, and when we're wrong, we have to go back and say, this is what we
Retract it,
reported,
yeah,
this is what we've learned since then. Yeah, a retraction.
Mm-hmm.
And this other person says, well, I don't trust the fact checkers. They're not working. I said, do you listen to any of those stations? He said, no. I said, how do you know? And because he was told this is what it is to believe. And the source he's getting his information is one that can't be licensed under news because they're not accurate enough, so they're licensed under entertainment.
Uh-huh.
And that particular station is also banned in both Canada and Europe because it's not news at all, it's propaganda. And so,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so they've taught their listeners that the fact checkers are not credible.
Right.
Just like they say Snopes is a bad thing. No, Snopes is real accurate. If you look something on Snopes, it tells you that it's fake.
I'm the only source of true.
Right.
So everybody else is false. Everybody else is fake.
Right.
Even though it may be that the person who says they're true is the one who's false.
Exactly.
You know, but how would we know if we never question?
That's the point. And that's part of radicalization. Radicalization is you're not allowed to question anything unless it's come from somewhere else. Question all other sources.
Right.
And
well,
so-
yeah, I've noticed that, you know, some of the most radical belief systems, most radical groups of people get their information from a source, an authority that tells them what to think, what to believe, what to do. And, you know, there's no, again, you're not allowed to question or challenge anything that comes from that, whatever that source is.
Well, I see in religion all the time. You'd be surprised how often I get people come after me on Facebook or Instagram when I quote either the Bhagavad Gita or the Quran or another holy writing, because they're all holy writings. And if it didn't come out of the Bible, it doesn't exist. In fact, I remember I was doing a wedding some years ago, about 16 years ago, I guess, thinking of a couple. And in the ceremony, I used a quote from Khalil Gibran. And I introduced as the Prophet Gibran, because he's known as a prophet. And someone after the wedding says, how can he be a prophet? He's not Christian or Jewish. I said, those aren't the only prophets. Prophets means they have inner seeing. They are enlightened. And they just couldn't believe that. Well, you can't call them a prophet. They didn't come from our Bible. I said, if that's working for you, fine, but I'm going to continue this. But that's how they were taught, that we only have one belief system that's correct, so you're not allowed to read anything but the Bible. Well, when you can't have any other source, that's how you get total domination. And that's where denomination turns into domination, and it's very unhealthy. Healthy religion doesn't care how many books you read from different religions, because they know we're all searching for truth. And there's not my truth and your truth. And that's an expression I really hate when they say, well, this is my truth. No, it's your perception of truth.
Right.
Truth is truth upon its own, doesn't need to be believed or trusted. It's truth in itself. And then we all have our view of it.
Right.
But I don't have my truth and you have your truth. We just have our views of it.
Right. Because
Sorry, that's been a pet peeve of mine.
well, no, but technically you're right, because if there's only one truth,
Yeah,
whatever it is,
whatever it is.
but my perception of that truth and your perception of that truth may be completely different. Right?
Exactly.
I don't know how we get to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that's where facts come in.
By learning to uncover, discover, and discard what we find not to be true. Oftentimes, it's what we find what's true is by first finding out what's not. At least that's been my experience.
Well, I mean, you know, of course, growing up and going to school and college and such, you know, that's what, you know, I just remember, you know, that's what we do. Research is coming up with a theory or a belief about something and testing it.
And testing it.
And testing it. And then I remember, I think it was my biology professor in college said, the essence of science is repeatability.
Right.
So you can come up with a research study and come up with whatever results you get. Whether that's truth or not depends on whether everybody else can do what you did and come out with similar or the same results. That's repeatability. That then, okay, now if everybody's getting the same result, now we got something.
Well, Gabby says I'm repeatedly wrong.
Well, I know Gabby, so she's probably pretty right.
Yeah, see, there you go. So, see, it works. It works on almost everything.
You see? Yeah.
and that statement is repeatable if you see some of the stupid things I do.
That's right. See, you've proven it time and time again.
That's right. No, I would hate to be disagreeable with her.
It wouldn't bode well for you. Yeah.
What's that expression? There's only two of us in the world that are sane, and I question you. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So, and we're in the last 5 minutes of this. So we have someone who has been radicalized.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an important question. I don't know if we'll be even able to cover it tonight. Might have to have another show to do it. How do you bring them back from that radicalization and to sane thinking, healthy thinking? Uncondition them, recondition them.
Well, like you said earlier, you had apparently had an opportunity to do that with someone who sort of got brought back from a cult or some experience, and you had
Right.
to deprogram them. It isn't easy.
No.
It really is a process. It's a process of deprogramming, which means that in a supportive, loving, kind way, because if you try to force them to change their belief, they're going to resist the heck out of it,
Exactly.
and it's just going to embed it even deeper. So you've got to bring them back with love and with softness and support. Yet you have to continue to. What you have to do, there's a psychological term called dissonance.
Right.
So you have to create dissonance, meaning that you have to be able to create a feeling inside of doubt or of questioning something. So in other words, I have to make them give them something that starts them challenging what it is that they believe.
Right.
Without directly saying they're wrong or stop believing that or it's not
attacking.
true or attacking it. I have to give them information that they can't refute.
Yeah, one of the things I did in the case was I took small pieces and say, well, let's take a look at that. How do you see that situation? And what has your experience been with that? And I said, what are some other ways you could look at that? And let them
Exactly.
come up with it.
In cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a technique that is used quite frequently these days, we would call that reframing.
Right.
Where you put something in different view or different terms, and then you've really hit on that when the person goes, I never thought of it that way.
Right.
Right. And so then you've created what I call a mismatch, because if they're thinking of it in a new way, and sometimes when I'm working with people, it's kind of subtle, but I'll say, I'm going to give you a way of thinking about it. I'm not saying that it's true. It's just a way of thinking, but I'm inviting you, if you would, for just a moment to think of it with me that way. So
Right.
I'm saying kind of try it on like a new pair of shoes, wear it around a little bit, see how it fits. But what I'm doing is sort of getting them to see, I'm putting them in a different frame of mind, not saying they have to stay there.
Right.
In fact, sometimes I'll say, so now thinking of it this way, what do you notice? How do you feel? And if they feel better, I'll say, okay, so how you had been thinking about it was causing you to feel bad. Thinking of it this way makes you feel better. You choose. Which one do you want? But now we've created dissonance, because now I go like, well, I don't want to feel bad, and this one feels good. So, and rarely do I have people that want to go back to the old way of thinking about it and feel bad.
Exactly.
Occasionally.
Well, we're down to our last 1 minute, and great conversation tonight. I really appreciate that. I think it's important to leave the listeners with this idea. If you have someone who has been radicalized, direct confrontation is not the way to go, because part of the radicalization teaches them to fight against anything. So if you don't put something up for them to push up against, then you have a better chance of getting in. But have your facts in order, know what you're talking about, and then, as we like to say around some of the people we run with, say what you mean what you say, but don't say it mean.
Oh, I like that.
And, so my guest this evening has been Dr. John Smith, author, psychotherapist, and all-around good friend and professor at that. And so,
Daggone, I got lots of titles, huh?
yeah, do you have a final thought you'd like to share with our listeners before the music comes on.
Love each other.
Yeah.
Just love each other, and rather than looking for what's wrong, just kind of look for what's right or what's common.
Or as the bumper sticker says, look for the good and praise it.
Mm,
And well, you've been listening to Viewpoint with Father John. I'm your host, Father John Reed. My guest has been Dr. John Smith. If no one told you this week that they love you, let me be the first. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to being with you again next week. Go in peace.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So it's nice to watch you do these things.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.